I will now call the April 24th, 2024 Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. This agenda was posted in compliance with the open meeting law, and all members are in attendance with the exception of Chair Davenport on the telephone. A quorum is established. Please join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the initial public comment period. Public comments during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide public comment. If there is someone in the audience that wants to come forth and speak, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing no one called in or is in the audience, we will close the first public comment period. Agenda item 1 for possible action, approval of the minutes for March 27, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
I motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Can you repeat that with the microphone, whoever said it? Who seconded? Okay, thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved unanimously. Next is item number 2 for possible action, discussion and update from Northwind Resource Consulting on finalized exterior design guidelines for various properties in the historic district. Ms. Moody, please proceed with your presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Commission, and staff. You have before you the final drafts of the design guidelines for contributing and non-contributing properties within the Boulder City Historic District. The non-contributing properties, non-contributing guidelines are further divided by non-contributing constructed within the period of significance, non-contributing constructed after the period of significance, and infill construction. This iteration of the guidelines that you see before you is roughly a result of 2 years of working closely with the Commission and staff. And it's, my understanding that after this meeting, barring any additional revisions, that the guidelines will be scheduled for council action.
Is that it?
Yep, so I'm here for any questions.
Does the commission have any questions?
I do not.
Hi, this is Blair. If anybody, if I should speak now or wait till folks there have comments or questions?
Yes, I was just about to call on you.
Thank you again, Denise, for leading the meeting again today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Courtney, too, also for the long haul on working on these guidelines. So I do have some comments or questions that I'll just, start working on now. Can you just confirm that what is in our packet is basically 4 categories of guidelines? The first being the design guidelines for contributing properties, and those are kind of at the end of the packet. And then the contextual design guidelines for buildings built during the period of significance between 30 and 45. buildings built after 1945 and then proposed new construction. So is that what's in our packet, all 4 types of guidelines?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So then starting with the first batch of guidelines, the contextual guidelines for non-contributing properties constructed after 1945, I had a question regarding the 3rd paragraph, second to last sentence. This is on page 12 of our packet. And it states, it is important to remember that even though the property isn't built within the established period of significance for the district, it is still over 50 years old and considered historic. I wonder if what you really mean is it's important to remember that even though there are properties built outside the period of significance, if they are over 50 years old, they may be considered historic. And the reason for my question is I was getting mixed up or confused with the use of the word historic versus contributing and non-contributing. Or so the use of the word historic, which may also mean contributing and vice versa.
I can see where you might be confused with, or where that sentence is confusing, and I think we can work on that.
Okay. So then also on that page, and this is also, I think on the rest of the contextual design guidelines, the gray box that states the City of Boulder City strongly encourages, ... The word applicant is used twice, but the question I have is, 1, what is an applicant of what? And 2, the one sentence which says the department is available to meet with the property owner or the owner's representative applicant, blah, 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 and can assist the applicant. What if the owner is also the applicant? So I guess what I'm asking for, the applicant of what needs to be defined, and maybe it is somewhere else in the guidelines, and to clean up that the owner can also be the applicant and vice versa. I know what it means. It's the building permit applicant, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And also the applicant for the certificate of appropriateness.
Yes. Okay. So that would need to be, I think, a little bit clarified.
Okay.
Let's see. So on page 14, figure number 2, and this figure is also elsewhere in the other contextual guidelines where it states the appropriate placement of accessory structures. Can I suggest that the word in rear at the end of that sentence be added, because the image or the graphic of the 3 buildings, it's not extremely, or it's not very clear what's the front or the back of the property. And then on page 15, the box, number 3 box, that goes with figure 3, it states that to maintain building heights, ... I think what needs to be said is to maintain building heights in proportion and appearance to neighboring historic buildings. And then I wonder if this could be added, or if there's some clarification required for, in this figure and in this guidance, or in this guideline number 3, it talks about the height. Sometimes the height is either changed because of plans to put a second story on, but oftentimes what shows up in the historic district is basements are raised. And I wonder if the following statement might be added or a version, and that is, basement additions that require raising the historic first floor level of the building should not be higher than neighboring historic buildings. Or something to that effect.
Okay.
And then, within this set of guidelines for non-contributing properties constructed after 45, this has to do with the construction of accessory buildings, whether they're new, well, they're primarily new construction, so to speak. And for figure number 4, I wonder if it should state inappropriate placement and massing of accessory structures rather than infill buildings, because infill buildings is discussed in the next batch of guidelines for infill construction. And then in the in the gray box for number 4, it states new construction including accessory structures. I think it needs to say on historic properties or contributing, whatever we want to call historic or contributing, with multiple buildings should not crowd. And I don't think historic age is the right word. I think it just needs to say historic buildings. Let's see. All right, so then moving on to the next group of guidelines for new infill construction on page 17. Let me see, what was I? So I was confused about what, in the first paragraph that starts with within the context of the Boulder City Historic District, the last sentence says, for additions to existing historic buildings within the district, as well as new construction of accessory buildings, please see contextual design guidelines for properties constructed within and outside the period of significance. I'm not sure if that is a, I don't know what contextual design guidelines for properties is, if that's like lumping the other guidelines together, of the 3 contextual design guideline types, or should you spell out the 3 types of guidelines, the first being for contextual design guidelines for after 45 and those within the period of significance? I don't know what that applies to specifically, especially when it's all capitalized. It's as if there's another set of guidelines out there.
Okay.
So moving on to page 19. Again, this is the contextual design guidelines for new infill construction. On figure 1, I wonder if the building on the left, the far left, the appropriate placement of addition and rear, the additions is actually discussed in the guidelines for, not for infill construction, but for outside the period of significance and after the period of significance. So I wonder if it's confusing to add that there. Unless new infill construction as defined in the beginning of the guidelines talks about vacant land where new from the ground up property is added. And so I'm not sure if that far left call out for the addition in the rear goes there.
Chair Davenport, can you repeat the question?
I don't think the question is, or my suggestion is, the image or the house shown on the far left in figure 1 applies to contextual design guidelines for within and outside the period of significance, and not for new infill construction. The house in the middle is fine. It's the one that it's confusing why you're talking about the rear, the placement of a rear addition in this group of guidelines for
Oh,
infill
I see.
new
Okay.
construction.
Okay. I believe we were just trying to kind of kill two birds with one stone, and we mentioned how
Oh.
the addition in the rear, because it's new construction, it would be considered, an addition would be considered new construction. And so we were just saying that it should be to the rear of the property, rather than coming up with a whole new graphic.
Then in the beginning introduction of new infill construction, then these guidelines apply to new construction, including new infill construction. Oh, never mind, you do say that. I'm sorry, I see that.
Okay.
Sorry, you're
Oh,
right.
Yep, no worries.
I just missed that.
I just wanted to make
And
sure I got it
again,
clear.
So for figure 2, I suggest adding the word in rear for that placement of the accessory structure. Let's see. All right, since this is wide, so this is fine. For figure 5, on the image, the house on the right, I wonder if the word incompatible needs to be added to new infill property. Is incompatible or incompatible new infill property to be consistent with, showing what's incompatible or inappropriate with that you use in the rest of the document.
Okay.
And then within the box, the gray box for number 5, I think what needs to be added, it should say new construction should be compatible with the massing, size, scale, setback, orientation, and architectural features of adjacent contributing historic properties within the district, and just delete the historic building itself. And you see where I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just to be consistent, when stating the district, is district with a capital D or a lowercase d. In that box, it's a lowercase d.
Okay.
So for the next batch of guidelines for non-contributing properties within the period of significance, I already mentioned the gray box at the bottom of the introductory pages, and in this case it's page 22. Just reiterating the applicant, defining what that is, and owners can also be applicants. Let's see. Again, on page 24, figure 2, adding the word in rear to that graphic would be helpful. On page 25, this is a duplicate of the contextual guidelines for properties constructed after 45. The number 3, great, the box that contains number 3, I think needs to say maintain building heights in proportion and appearance to neighboring historic buildings. And then consider adding basement additions that require raising the historic first floor level of the building should not be higher than the neighboring historic buildings. And since this section of the guidelines is about not infill new construction, but for figure 4, I wonder if it should state inappropriate placement and massing of accessory structures, or should it say infill buildings and/or accessory structures? I'm not. Would that kill two birds with one stone using that figure and those as necessary within the guidelines?
Okay.
Let's see. So then I was curious, so a couple things for the next batch of guidelines, and these are for contributing properties starting on page 27. Is a cover or explanatory page supposed to go with these, similar to what you've done to the other 3 batches of guidelines? And then a suggestion to add a footer that says design guidelines for contributing property, for continuing properties, which is similar to the style of the other guidelines, the contextual guidelines, so that we know that when people are looking at these apply to contributing properties.
So.
And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just really quickly, if you go to the next page, you can see that there is a footer there for the individual property addresses. So we did not put a footer on that first page. I mean, we could, but there's the title at the top.
Oh, I see how you.
I mean, I see what you're saying. We could put it on page 2, but we couldn't put it on the rest of them.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I guess you can see that it's contributing, but it doesn't say that it's the guidelines. Does it I mean, do you think it's enough that people, if they just saw this one page, that they would know that these are the guidelines for contributing structures?
Well, how we are thinking that how people will see these is they're not going to see all of the documents. They're only going to access the one document that they need for their property. So it shouldn't be, they won't get this whole, packet where they might be flipping through and kind of, it'll be more clear because each guideline will be separate.
Okay. Well, but so if you look at page 33, regarding mission style commercial Boulder Theater, it doesn't state that this is contributing.
It does at the bottom. It says it's individually eligible.
Okay.
So each of the sheets with the photograph buildings has their listing status as well as their style and use and building name if they have one.
So the Craftsman style is really one document. It has the text on one side and the image on the other, and therefore that's how they go together, and people will know that, oh, they're contributing. This is for contributing. These belong to the contributing guidelines.
Also, on the first page for each style, there's the table that lists the addresses of. I mean, they're all contributing. If they're on this, all the addresses that are listed are contributing properties, and then the bolded addresses are individually eligible.
Isn't individually eligible also contributing?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think, let me make sure. I think that was all I had. So my question, though, is there a summary explanatory page for the contributing guidelines?
No.
Should there be? Or how are people supposed to know what these are for? What does contributing mean?
We can certainly prepare one.
I'm sorry.
We can certainly prepare one.
I think that would be helpful in order to be consistent with the other three groups of guidelines. And that's all I had. Again, thank you for everything. It looks great. Super glad that these are like 99.999% complete. Yay.
So close. Thank you, Chair Davenport, for your comments.
Thank you, Chair Davenport, for your due diligence and thoroughness. We appreciate that on the commission. Does anyone else have any comments?
I just wanted to add real quick. Chair Davenport brought up at the beginning the question over the use of the term historic and its relation to 50 years. I just want to note that Nevada Revised Statute 381.195, defining the preservation of prehistoric and historic sites, defines historic as from the middle of the 18th century until 50 years before the current year. So that's where those terms are coming from.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. I guess my question is in regards to the guidelines, the use of the word historic versus compatible or contributing are used interchangeably. And maybe that's okay. Meaning if somebody wants to raise, let's say, put a second floor on a historic structure or on a non-contributing building, does it matter that it's incompatible with the next home that's historic, or the next home that is contributing, or both?
Courtney Mooney, for the record, it does matter, and in the language for the contextual guidelines, it states, I'll have to find it, in a few places in each of the contextual guidelines, it states that instead of using the word shall, we use the word must when it came to potential impacts on adjacent historic properties, contributing properties, and the district itself.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? If there is no more questions, do I have a motion? Can I have a motion to recommend to the City Council the finalized exterior design guideline for various properties in the historic district? Anybody
I
like
make a motion to adopt for that the Historic Preservation Commission approves and/or adopts approves these guidelines and wishes to submit them to the City Council for consideration.
Okay, thank you, Chair Davenport. Do I have a second?
May I interrupt before we do a second? Yes. So all of the suggestions that were just made, are all of those suggestions going to be made? Are they going to be discussed? Are they going to be reviewed? Are we going to get a new copy of everything with the changes? Are we going to do any of that before it goes to the City Council?
Good question.
That is up to the discretion of the commission. We can make the changes and bring them back next month.
If there's no rush or precedence to have them at a certain date, I think that would be good to, because there was a lot of changes that she made, and you may miss one or two, and we want to be well represented when we go to City Council.
So then we don't need action tonight from the
Motion.
commission. We've got the feedback. We will work with Courtney to make those updates and then bring them back next month. Does that work with your timeline, Courtney?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, we're going to table that until next month.
Well, not table, but we will bring it back with the revisions.
Okay,
And then we'd be looking for a motion at that time to recommend to the city council.
okay, thank you. Can I go on with the next agenda, or do I have to close this out with the motion? to
No, you can
Go
move
to
on.
next
Yep.
agenda? Good. Thank you, Courtney. The next agenda is item 3, presentation from Northwind Resource Consulting on the interactive mapping viewer for the historic district. Ms. Moody, please proceed with your presentation.
I have to go back to the rear of the chambers to access the computer, but I wanted to preface this with saying that this is still slightly in progress. So, and I will point out some of the things that we're still working on. And I welcome any comments, and what I'd like to do, if okay with Director Mays, is give everyone a link to the map so you can kind of mess around with it at home, and whatever issues you have or questions or concerns, then you can send them to Director Mays or Nikisha or myself, and that would be great feedback. So once I show you this, we can make sure to get you the link as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Projecting voice, but
Okay,
it sounds good. Okay.
there you go.
Okay, so here is the interactive map, web map. Again, this is kind of a little bit of a beta version. What you see here is these are the builder types. So all of the letters correspond to the different builders that were identified in the early 1983 historic survey of Boulder City. This right now cannot be turned off, and you need this layer on so that you can access some of the other features of the web map. And that's one of the things that we are working on. I'd like to be able to turn this off because I would also like to be able to filter this as well as all of the other things that we're going to talk about filtering. So, but for now, oh, thank you. For now, this is how this layer has to stay on. And there are actually 2 layers that have to turn on. So there's the Boulder City original builders, the points, which are in the centroid of every parcel. And then there are the Boulder City original builders, which are the polygons of every parcel. And the parcel boundaries we got from the city of Boulder City, but they originate at the Clark County Assessor. So these are legal parcel boundaries that we're using. But the first thing I'd like to show you is you can type in an address, and I'm going to use this one as, whoops, oh geez, I'll blow this computer up. It's always hard to get used. So 600 Nevada Way. It goes right to that parcel, and when you click on it, you get the relevant parcel information. So you have the parcel number, address, the county, the type, which is S, and again, this was identified in that early survey, so it's institutional, public, semi-public, construction year, the style category, and the style, which is Spanish Revival. Is it contributing? Yes. Non-contributing? No. Individually eligible? Yes. And here you can click on the ARA and get the ARA form for that building. And then you can also, this is the only one that we have the design guide tied to it yet because they haven't been approved, but I wanted to show you as an example. You will get your relevant design guideline for that building. So it's kind of a one-stop shop there. You can also search by assessor parcel number if you need to do that. And that's really handy because sometimes you have conflicting, an address that is not what the parcel number is showing or vice versa. So this is a good way if you're doing any kind of research on a property to confirm that it's the right property that you want to look for. There's a selection tool, which, and again, that you can use to click on any of the parcels and it comes up with the same information. Now the other cool thing is we loaded a ton of base maps on here. So if anybody wants to just, click on a different map, this is kind of fun, the blueprint map, just different things. So that's kind of fun. Okay, now I would like to show you the ways that this information can be filtered. So over here we have properties constructed within the district's period of significance. I should show you that if you float over it, you'll see the entire title, but if you click on it, it gets constricted. It might be just it's being constricted because it's on a laptop, but on your personal computer it might show the whole title. So if you click these on, both the point and the polygon have to be clicked on, and you'll see these are all the properties constructed within the period of significance. Now, you're going to want to see which ones of these are contributing. So if you go out, it's a little bit easier to see. And here's why I want to be able to turn off the types, because it's kind of hard to see. You can sort of see, where the colors are concentrated, but it is a little bit difficult to see those properties to really get an idea of where they're grouped or not grouped when these types are on. And that's one of the things we're going to work on. And you can say, okay, we have the contributing properties. Which ones of these are individually eligible? So it narrows it down even more. And let's say which ones of these are national folk. Turn that one on, and we got to turn, I don't know if there's a way to get around having to turn the point and the polygon off, but there's not a lot of contributing or individually eligible national folk. I think there's only one right down here. I think that's the museum property, 640 Avenue C. The other kind of fun thing is if you go to My Location, should I hit allow?
Sure.
Okay. It'll show you where you are. So we're at City Hall. This, of course, is the zoom in and out functions. This will just recenter, the home icon will just recenter the district. And then the other kind of fun part is if you go back up to the select one and you say, I want to look at these. I'm going to limit some of these because it doesn't give you enough data. Whoops. I don't know, that's not working now. All right, so there's another thing we got to, okay, so you've got those selected, then you go down to this tab and it will pull up all the information in a spreadsheet style for those selected properties. So there's a lot of way, and you can search through here, you can aggregate different things, so it's really user-friendly, and it has a lot of information that for, private property owners can access just one property, or if they want to say, where are all the other Spanish-style houses in the district? I want to go take a look at those. So they can click on that layer and go take a look, and maybe see, they want to know the contributing or individually eligible Spanish style, and they go look at those, and they can see some of the architectural elements that are key to that style, and they think about, maybe some of the alterations they want to make to their house maybe not be appropriate. So that's it. The other issue that we're having, and City Hall is actually a really good example, is if you go to, say, California, 400 California, see where the dot goes into the street, because this parcel is 900 Arizona Street. And so we need to, we're going to work with the GIS folks with City of Boulder City to try to come up with a way to split these parcels, because the other issue is, if you look at, it'll say that this parcel, which is 900 Arizona Street, is individually eligible, and 900 Arizona is not. So we have to figure out a way to split these properties out, these buildings out, but while still respecting that parcel boundary. So that's a tech question that's way above my pay grade, but we are working on that. And then, once again, all of the design guidelines will be linked to their corresponding properties once they have been approved by City Council. So that's the last kind of big step we have to take. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. I'd like to start off with a couple of questions. I'm sure the commission may have questions. I understand that this is a beta product right now, obviously in its infancy. The first thing that I noticed, the color coded, is there like a legend, a written legend? I see the 1 through 5, but that doesn't tell me what that is. Just going in, so maybe a tutorial or something like that. So how to use the product, maybe something that you may want to think of doing, as well as the legend. And is this to be used on an iPhone or a computer at home?
So
Because on an iPhone it would be really hard to read.
yeah, so Courtney Mooney for the record. There is a legend. When you click the legend button, oh, thanks. You can see all of the types are listed. So that's helpful. Before it was just letters, and I knew no one was going to know what those were. So we did add the names, and it is mobile friendly. I have not used it mobile yet, so I don't know if there are issues. My phone is a iPhone 12 mini, so it's really small, so I don't even want to try.
Absolutely.
But be my guest if you want to try and give me some comments. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, my number one thing I think is a tutorial to maybe to the new users of how to use it. Anybody? Let me go to Chair Davenport. Do you have any questions? I'll go to you since you're on the phone first.
This is supposed to be available for the public, correct? And then accessible by going, connecting to the website, historic preservation page on the city's website?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Is the city or the state obligated to make anything 508 compliant or accessible, visually accessible?
In response to that question, we would obviously work with our communications manager to make sure that the website meets all state or federal obligations for accessibility.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And a similar follow-up question with that, I notice a lot of the color codes on here, there's white, green, red, over an urban overlay. What do you do with color blindness?
It's not ADA. Courtney, did you hear that question?
I did. I don't know.
Yeah, I know this is not an answer that you'll have right away.
Okay.
It's something to think about as we want this to be accessible to the community at large, and these are some questions to think about as you continue the development.
Good questions. I wanted to respond to an earlier comment about a tutorial. We are providing a one-sheet kind of page that will be available for people to look and kind of learn how they can access their property or filter the different data.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions? Okay.
This is Blair again. I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right because I'm not a computer GIS geek, but is this map live or is it a file that people access? And what I mean by live is, you see it's like GIS, it's it's like a GIS map, and is it something static, and you put it in as a standalone, let's say, document or file, rather than is it on a cloud and that's why it's connecting to other data on the web or within the city, on the page within the city's page where this lives. I don't know if I'm making
So are
sense.
you asking, can you click on anywhere on the map and it would take you to another location?
Oh, yes, there you go. So like if I type in 600 New Mexico Street or whatever, what happens there? Is it a blank? Or is it like acting like an app, the Google app on your phone or on your computer? Or is that information like left out or blanked out, or how does that look, I guess?
Courtney Mooney, for the record, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So maybe, I guess, to clarify, or what I think she's asking is the ability, will it be searchable? So you put an address in, it'll take you directly to that information. If the information tied to that property would change, then that would be updated so that when the viewer is looking at this information, they will always have the most recent information available for that property.
Okay, so the map of the city itself is static, other than when you click on the legend 1, 2, or 3, it'll tell you where you are and it opens up like California. But outside of that, there's no information that's outside that could be bought, and everything that's put in the database is from the city. Like you can't click on Colorado and it'll take you somewhere else with more information other than what the city puts in. It's not going to connect with anybody else other than the city.
Yeah, this would be connecting to the design standards relevant to that property, the 2020 survey relevant to that property, general historic preservation information. So yes, it would be the information that between Northwind and the city puts in for ease of access for property owners to better understand their property and its relationship to the historic district.
Okay, so as we go through it and play with it, like Courtney said, are you willing to take comments or suggestions of how to make it more user-friendly?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, as you're reviewing it, send me all of your comments and I'll work with Courtney to view how we can incorporate those into the website.
Okay, and the last question I had was the yellow line that's going around, is that bordered the historic district? What is that yellow line that's
Yeah,
going around?
that's the
Is
historic
that-
district.
She did say that? Okay, because I missed that.
Does anybody happen to know why it goes down the alley between H and G and not down G?
One side.
Well, the
That was decided years ago, but is there any reason why it goes down the alley and not the street?
Yeah, so the historic district is based on the National Register nomination that occurred in 1983. And I don't know, Courtney, as you were reviewing that original material, if there was any explanation why they created the boundary that they did?
Courtney Mooney, for the record, I don't recall offhand. The boundary we did receive from the city of Boulder City, and I did review it, but I can certainly give that another check just to make sure that that's the accurate boundary.
I'm sure that it is. I was just interested why it went through the alley, but not the houses in front that are connected to the alley.
I don't recall offhand, unfortunately.
I don't know. It all is, right.
Any other questions? We do get a chance to play with it, which is going to be pretty cool, and I'm sure you'll get a lot more input. Thank you for putting this together. It's wonderful. Anything that's interactive, I think, brings us up to, into 21st century with the rest of the world, so that's a good thing. Now, when are you going to get this to us as far as to play with it? Do you have a time frame when you're going to actually send it out? Is Michael going to send it out to us, or?
Courtney Mooney, for the record, I can give the link to Michael tonight.
That'd be good. Then we'll have a full month to play with it and come back on there. Any other questions before we move on? Chair Davenport, do you have anything else online?
No, thank you. This looks great. Thanks again, Courtney, and your team.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Okay. So next agenda, item 4 for possible action, matters pertaining to the Historic Preservation Day and award for 2024. Staff, your report, please.
So we are 2.5 weeks out. I have included in your material, obviously, another copy of the flyer that went out to the entire community through the utility mailer this month with the schedule. I also have the Historic Preservation Day activity notes, and you'll note that in that summary, I have included the responsibilities I will have for preparing for Historic Preservation Day. I'm working with the Public Works Department. We will have the hangar available and open, limited opening for the presentation from the museum. They're going to have a PowerPoint presentation on the history of the airport, and people can watch that presentation inside the hangar. Of course, then we'll have the children's activities outside. I have noted on this sheet what I believe are the tasks that are complete. Certainly let me know if additional tasks need to be complete, and obviously this is our last chance to discuss before the day of the event.
Thank you. Do we have any comments?
I have passed out packets to everybody with the activities that we can have. There are activities that we can link to Chromebooks that will have materials next to them. The first one is the flight activities, the hoop gliders, paper helicopters, and the next one are paper cup helicopters, dragonfly propeller, and then the ones behind it are a shorter version of those. So it kind of depends upon how in-depth we want to do that. Do we want to have sections where we might have a volunteer to kind of watch over them, give them the papers for them to put the activities together? Do we want to put bags together with all of the materials and let them take some of them home? What did we have envisioned?
No, this is just the airport, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Chair Davenport, did you have any comments? Or I don't think she may have one.
I do, actually. I was approached by a member of the, Friends of the Nevada Southern Railway. Yes, I'm looking at their flyer. And they wanted me to pass the word on that there will be a train show that same day, May 11th, as well as Sunday, May 12th, 9 to 5 p.m. at the Parks and Rec Center. These are model trains, not big real trains. And anyway, they just wanted, while we are, at our posts, and if we wanted to convey that information, to the public, let them know that, there's more train information, or there's more train stuff at the Parks and Rec from 9 to 5 on Saturday, if people want to go see that.
So basically, you're saying you're going to have flyers at the railroad so people would know that there's another activity, or are you asking to add on to what we're doing already?
No, I would not add it on to what we're doing. It's just a bonus, and if, just to let people know that there's a model train show going on that same day, 9 to 5.
Okay, would,
And maybe, I'm not sure, this is a question for Chris, if,
Right.
they'll
Yeah, so
convey that
this is our
information.
friends group at the museum. They were told that it was in conflict with Historic Preservation Day, and the museum was not going to support it, and they went off and did it on their own.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So would it be wrong to have flyers there at the railroad?
I mean,
pointing people
I have
to
no
it?
problem sending the public if they're interested and want to go out. It's just, we as the commission did not discuss this. It
Right.
wasn't part of our planning. And so at this point, it's too late in the game,
Right,
Right.
in my opinion.
Agreed.
okay.
Well, I'd like to circle back around to what we were talking about prior to that with these activities. Do we want to have several stations set up where they can go around? Do we want to just have one? What would you guys like? What had you envisioned?
Well, I imagine it automatic, if you have a lot of children that are there, you would want to have 2 or 3 booths set up, so they're just not standing in a line for one booth, so.
Will there be area inside? How much space?
No, the area inside will just be chairs, the projector, for people to see the presentation.
Okay.
It's gonna be
And was
limited.
that in the front door where we went and then kind of turned? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the problem is if it is windy out, all of all of our materials may take flight.
So in that case, you may want to have the packs for the kids to take home, because if it's windy, they're not going to be able to do anything.
I mean,
but at
we
least
could
they leave with something.
we could very easily copy some of these. Do we have funds to put together bags with some of the materials?
Certainly, I can make copies of any material any of the individuals provide to
But like
me.
this one has, obviously we wouldn't need scissors, but some of them are straws and like cardstock, paper clips, things like that for them to do the activity at home with the paper and the supplies in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, I think, you could do a paper ruler and just make photocopies of that. Plastic straws, tape, cardstock, that's easy.
Wooden dowels.
Scissors, I don't know if we would,
Well, we could have the scissors there if it's not windy, and they could have the bag with the materials, but then have the rulers and the scissors and the tape at the table if it's not, outside, if it's not too windy.
yeah.
So what do you envision, how long would it take for one child to do one of these activities?
Probably about 15 minutes.
So that's a lot, if you have 20 kids.
Not if they're in different stations.
Okay.
If they're if it's spread out in different tables.
How many tables did you think you were?
Well, 1 table per activity. I
Okay.
was thinking, so we could narrow it down to 3 activities or 2.
So we're envisioning having tables outside where they'd walk up to and do the activity? So 3 tables? Okay.
Probably the 8-foot long ones.
6 foot or 8? How many volunteers do you think you need? Because if you had the 8 foot, you're thinking maybe 3 children at each 8-foot table. So are you getting volunteers, or you
I
want
can get
us
the
to do-
volunteers,
okay.
absolutely. I'll do that.
So if you had 3 8-foot tables and you do 3 at each, you'll need 9 people
Yeah.
at each table, and you'll do that, okay? 9 folks. Any other questions or ideas, or?
No, Miss May, I'm sorry. I have the flight activities. I don't have a copy of the flyer.
It was in the agenda. Oh, there we go.
That's fine.
Thank you.
That looks good for the airport. And how long do you think it would take, say, if you had 20 kids? It's 15 each one, so you're thinking they would be there
Well,
maybe
and I
like-
think they're coming because it's kind of an open house, so they're not all going to arrive at the exact same time.
So you have 10 to 11:30? Okay, that's enough time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it looks like simple projects, nothing too. Any other questions? So are we finished with yours?
Yes.
And I'll move on to Railroad. Any questions or comments on your section?
No, we're ready to go. We're just waiting for the date to get here now.
I know, we're excited. I've been passing the word on. And as far as the company store, the gentleman with the cars, we're still on with that.
Yep, absolutely.
Tara, the owner of the company store, is putting together things for the children, more giveaways than interactive stations. So hers are just going to be giveaway things. So that should be pretty simple as well. So it looks like we're good to go unless anybody has any other comments for the day or. Michael, do you have anything?
Just to let the commission know that City Council Member Walton will be attending, representing the City Council when the award is given. And I'll be working with Chair Blair on the language that will be on the award, that the certificate that's given out to the LA Department of Water and Power Lodge as the recipient of the award.
Very nice. Thank you, Michael.
Do we know if anybody from the city of Los Angeles is going to be attending to accept that?
Yes, there will be a representative. They're just working out who
fantastic.
will be there. Yep.
Wonderful.
Okay. It's coming together. It's going to be an exciting day. I've been passing around the flyers and talking it up, so we're excited. Thank you for your hard work, the city level. Okay, then I think if there's no other questions, I'll go on to the next agenda, which is agenda item number 5. Update on implementation of the commission's goal and priorities. Staff, your report, please.
Very short report. Again, the monthly goals are listed. Bold highlights indicate new information. Of course, that will change under 1.3 since we'll be bringing back the design guidelines to the commission at the end of May. So we'd be looking at June, July time period to present them to the city council.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Blair, do you have any questions for Michael?
No, thank you.
Okay. So the next agenda is item 6, commission discussion regarding the Military Veterans Museum in Boulder City. This item was requested by Commissioner Baker. I will turn it over to him to lead the discussion.
Thank you. Most of you should have a set of 2 documents, one that says proposal, and then there's another one that has some background on the some background of the proposal. I don't know if we all got mixed up here a little bit, but what this is all about, even though this is not directly historic preservation in the sense that we're discussing it here, it does have to do with the history of Boulder City, and the fact that Boulder City has been involved with the military and with veterans for many years, going back to certainly to World War II. And I have long wanted to see a Veterans and Military Museum in the state of Nevada. It could be anywhere. The idea is to have the museum in Nevada. It could be in Reno, Carson City, Las Vegas, Henderson, Pahrump, or even in Boulder City. And next month, the end of next month, I've got a meeting scheduled with an assembly person. We're going to discuss the possibility of writing a bill draft request for next year's legislature to see if we could get some seed money to just get something going where I would be able to start calling around to get grants, to get donations, to get real money to get a museum going. But the fact is that if the state is not interested, it's possible that we could have different cities that might be interested. In other words, Boulder City could put up a museum without the help of the state. It would be a lot, it would be smaller, it would be less expensive, but it would still be professional. It would be a tourist attraction. It would bring more people into Boulder City, tourist people. Certainly, we have a lot of veterans and veterans' families coming into town. This would increase that situation. So what I am asking the members of this commission to do is to take this proposal with them, with yourselves, take my other piece, which is, if you all have, it says, to build a Historic Preservation Commission respectfully submitted by Chuck N. Baker. I don't have a copy of that here. Take that with you. And at next month's meeting, if there's a consensus that this is a possibility or has some potential, I would ask that we would, as a commission, make a recommendation to the city council to explore the possibility of a museum, getting some seed money, as I call it, to just get some things started, have a discussion, talk with veterans, whatnot, talk with the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, which is in charge of the museum and the veterans home here. And so that's my proposal at this point. It's just barely scratching the surface, but I would hope that you might look this over and bring it back with you next month, and perhaps you'll all agree or perhaps you'll all disagree, as the case may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. I'd like to start off with you. Chair Davenport, do you have any questions or comments?
I did not receive the two packages, so if Michael or the city could send me those, that'd be great, and I'd be happy to assist in this effort. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments at this point? Well, Chuck, thank you for your ability to want to do this. I am a veteran, and I know that all of Nevada has a heart, all of our country has a heart for veterans. We do have somewhat of, I call it a veterans corridor, as far as the cemetery, the home up at the
Sure,
hill.
the park.
The park. I don't know if the statue from the governor or from the Governor's Center is going to be here, but I know they're working on getting that monument. I think it's a monument of all the events that we've had in our country, all the wars and different
If I may
events.
comment, you're talking about the Veterans Memorial in Las Vegas. I will say that there is a strong group of veterans in Las Vegas who is against moving that to the cemetery. They're circulating a petition. I don't know that they have a new location in mind, but they're definitely against putting it here. The reason being, they say, who's going to come out here just to see that? And the fact is, who comes out to see it where it is, other than veterans, of course, but it's in kind of a poor location. So I just mentioned that. I think the governor's office is already committed to putting it here in the cemetery, but if enough veterans are against it, they may reconsider, but I don't know where that stands right now.
Right, which is their right to do that. I heard the same thing, and so we had expected somewhat of a pushback on it. But again, we have a lot already here. Wreath Across America has brought thousands here in December, the second Saturday in December. So we have the numbers. We have a large veteran population here in Boulder City.
Right.
So I think that it's a possibility, and I look forward to looking over your proposal and giving you some feedback on it.
Thank you. And for the record, I am a veteran.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Oh, thank you.
I too am a veteran, but I'm also a museum professional, and I do have some questions here. You're calling this a museum. What artifacts do you propose on housing and curating, and where are you finding the basis for your core collection?
Well, we're very premature to give you a definitive answer concerning that question. But one of the purposes of getting some seed money together, and as I said, I would be calling around for grants and donations. At the same time, I would be asking families and individuals in the state and out of the state. Many families have artifacts of their individual people who were in the service. They've got these things stuffed in the attic, in the basement, wherever, gathering dust. And we would like to have donations for that information, for those items rather, to consider putting in the museum. As far as I have some of my credentials in one of those packets. I am not a museum professional. but I am a founder and two-term chairman of the Las Vegas Historic Preservation Commission. I'm also a Purple Heart Vietnam veteran. I've been involved in many organizations, many activities, volunteered with not volunteered, I worked for the Nevada Department of Veteran Services for many years. So I have a background in history. I have a background in veterans and military work. Obviously, we would need a lot more people. It's not a one-man band, but I believe I'm qualified to get started. And then I can answer your questions a little more in a little more depth once things get rolling. If you have comments and suggestions and recommendations, I'd be glad to meet with you at any time or talk on the phone or computer, whatever works. And
Put this before the commission today to discuss, and my concern here is it seems like you're putting the cart before the horse. Generally, if you're going to build a museum, you're building it in the mind of preserving and collecting artifacts and saving pieces of history, but it seems to me that that discussion hasn't even been done yet. You're talking about building a building and then trying to find things to put into it. And that's a concern. You're asking us to join a plan that isn't fully fleshed out.
well, okay, I can certainly, I'd be glad to give you a list of suggestions of artifacts and historical items and commentaries and whatnot that I feel would go into a museum. And I'm sure you have other suggestions and other things that you feel should go into a museum. And let's get together and see what works, and then we can bring that up. I mean, as far as putting the cart before the horse, nobody's come up with any money yet, and I don't think they're going to come up with any money next week or next month. So we've got plenty of time to do the things you want to do, and I have no problem doing them.
I have a quick question. Where is the closest, that's fine. Where is the closest museum like this to Boulder City?
We don't have a veterans or military museum in southern Nevada.
No, I know, but state, where, even if it's several states away, where's the closest one to
Ohio?
here?
I'm not aware of anything close by. The closest would be there are various assorted museums in Carson City that include large veterans displays and exhibits. They're not veterans museums specifically, but there
Are
is
there any veteran-specific museums?
anywhere. I can't. I don't know the
There's one in
answer.
Ohio.
Ohio?
That-
Okay.
I will. Yeah. Let me mention one thing. Back in the 1990s, early 2000s, there was a veterans museum in Las Vegas. There was there's a Nevada family that owned a building in Las Vegas, and they donated the use of that building to a group of veterans. These were not professional museum people, but they were veterans. And they collected exhibits, including uniforms, photographs, weapons, all the types of things that you'd find in a traditional museum. And they built cases and built displays, and they did a pretty dynamic job. And it lasted for many years. Many politicians would come to that museum. They would hold situations there on Memorial Day, on Veterans Day. We had many veterans and their families come to that. Unfortunately, the convention center wanted that property, and eventually the family that owned the property, they only loaned it to the organization. They had to take the property back. The museum was disbanded. People who donated, most of the people who donated their material came and got it. Some of it was, nobody claimed it, and the Nevada Department of Veteran Services stored it for several years. It was costing the state a lot of money, and I don't know what they did with it. Eventually, they just couldn't store it anymore, and the whole thing fell apart. The fact is, though, going back to the 90s, early 2000, there was a museum, such as it was. It was extremely popular in the veterans community, and unfortunately, as I say, they had to sell the property, and the convention center now has taken it over. But that's the only answer I can give you as far as that.
Commission, Nikisha Lyon, City Planner. There are several in the United States. The two closest ones are located in California. There is one in San Diego, the San Diego Veterans Museum, and then there's the Central Coast Veterans Memorial Museum, which is in San Luis Obispo. I don't know if I said that correctly. That's
Close
the other
enough.
one there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you could reach out to them and get some guidance or, some more information on possibly opening another one.
Surely, definitely.
Any other questions or comments? Chair
Hi, this
Davenport?
is Blair. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you if you had any questions or comments.
Thanks. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Chris was talking about as far as the plans and planning required for, a physical museum. But I just wanted to throw out there that there are potentially other ways of memorializing and recognizing our veterans by way of online exhibits. There's some historic properties in Boulder City that could be highlighted. There's, of course, the veterans locations, the cemetery and the other, monuments that are in town. It'd be great to partner with the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign War, those types of organizations to highlight at least Boulder City's history with or military history and, working with memorializing our veterans. So anyway, I would love, that's something I've always been kind of interested in working on, is some kind of acknowledgement, some kind of history page or website that recognizes Boulder City's history, military history, and veterans. And maybe that's a place to start as well. And I would like to work on that someday. And just to remind folks, just recently this year, the National Park Service recognized Henderson and Boulder City as an American World War II heritage city. Each state in the Union has that as a designation, and we're lucky to have that here in Boulder City and Henderson.
Yes, if I may, in my note to the commission, I do mention the historic city, military city. I mentioned that in there. Also, just to throw some more information out, I have been collecting military memorabilia, and I can only collect so much. My house is only so large, but my plan is to photograph that and to start a web page or something similar as being discussed here as a footnote to a museum, something to get started on that. And even though we're talking about museum in San Diego and San Luis Obispo, which I will definitely reach out to, but I just will mention that next week I'm on an extended trip. I'm going to Washington, D.C. My son is a major in the Marine Corps. He works at the Pentagon, and I'm going to be touring the Pentagon as much as they'll show me. And from there, I'm going to London, and I am going to be going to the Imperial War Museum, which I've been to in the past. It's a fantastic military museum, and I plan on taking some photos and bringing some information back. And I'm also going to be going outside of London to a facility called the American something museum. It's the American Air Museum outside of London. It's a museum of aircraft that were flown by Americans who donated their services to Britain and the Royal Air Force prior to the United States getting involved in the war. They've collected stories and artifacts and airplanes, and I've got a meeting set up with them. So I am going to be seeing those international museums, but nonetheless, I will be checking out San Diego. I appreciate your mentioning that. And I am going to be working, when I come back, working on a website, starting to photograph and illustrate and describe various military artifacts that I've collected. And certainly there's no reason why there couldn't be a separate section on that website that would be donated to Boulder City. And things could get started along those lines. So I'm open to all of that. The main thing is let's get something started and see where it leads us and have it grow into something that we can really be proud of.
Any other questions? Final question, Chair Davenport?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. I
you.
appreciate it. We look forward to all this coming together.
Thank you.
The next agenda is item 7, discussion and update on the status of properties in the historic district or other potential eligible properties. Staff may have your report.
We have put in your packet the April report on activities within the district and can answer any questions.
Chair Davenport, do you have any comments? Oops, not on. Chair Davenport, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't think I have any questions except if I'm curious if city staff know if there's an environmental assessment that's being worked on for the airport tower. Do you know or foresee that the Historic Preservation Commission has to address cultural resources there?
That's certainly something I can check with the airport manager and let the commission know.
Because I guess my question too is it a federal project because it's FAA? Is that why there's an EA?
It is a federal project. It's being supported mostly by federal funds.
Right. Okay. So I foresee maybe we might be, we might have some review capacity in that project. Minor, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay, if there's no further comments, I'll move on to 38, next agenda item 8 for possible action. Commission discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Commission meetings. Now is the time for the commission to identify possible future agenda items. Any questions from the commission?
So I had mentioned, I was suggesting that after the commissioners take my material home, that we might open it up for discussion next month. Would that have to be an agenda item?
Yes, it would have to be an agenda item.
Okay, that would be my suggestion for an agenda item.
Any question, or is anybody opposed to that, or? Chuck, is this something that you want to do monthly to keep us updated on your progress? Or, 'cause it sounds like there's a lot of work that has to be done.
I think at each meeting, I'd have to let you know if I'm prepared to talk some more at the next meeting. We'd have to take it meeting by meeting rather than make it automatic. But certainly next month would be appropriate if all of you, any or all of you, have comments.
Okay, and that'll be after your travels?
Yeah, I'll be back in time for the meeting. I'll be back in time for the Preservation Day and for the meeting, both.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments? Other questions or comments on that? Anything? Okay.
Well,
Now-
maybe just for clarification, is that the consensus of the commission to bring that item back?
That's what I was asking. Does anybody have?
Does it fall under what our guidelines and objectives for the committee is?
I guess in terms of historic preservation, there is a tangential relationship, but I guess also it's, timeliness in terms of if the commission has the information and wants to do something with it. I guess from a staff standpoint, what I wouldn't suggest is that you just have multiple months where you're talking about something, but that it's more structured about what your objective is.
I agree, and that was kind of my question. Is this going to be ongoing every month until it happens? Because it could take years before a museum is built, or even the planning of it could take a long time. So is it something that we want to look at when he gets something substantial that we could sink our teeth into and really work on? Or you want to draw it out month to month just as he brings us information on his progress? Because it sounds like what you would talk about, Chris, it's going to take a long time to
Well,
put together.
for reference, we break ground on the Visitor Center for the Railroad Museum in November of 2024. The museum was created in 1991.
That's a long time. And you broke ground after all that time, not that it was
Yeah,
built.
it's taken that long to get an indoor facility.
So that's a question for the commission. What are we looking, or I should ask Chuck, what do you think is substantial to bring back rather than to kind of draw it out every month?
Well, we could bring it up every month, and if I have something to report, I would report it, and if not, I'll say I have nothing to report this month. Would that be appropriate, Mr. Maves?
What I would suggest is that you look at a longer time frame. I'd hate to, for the public standpoint, when something's on the agenda, the public expects that the commission is going to be discussing it. And if there's nothing to report, then I would suggest not adding it to the agenda to begin with. Certainly, this is the opportunity, knowing a month in advance, when you would request the commission to discuss something in the future. So when you're ready, then you could indicate at one of these meetings, I would like to discuss this again, and if there's consensus by the commission, we can add it to the agenda.
So, it's my hope that all, or at least some of the commission members will go over this material and might want to comment on it next month. So with that in mind, in as much as I've actually presented material to be discussed, I'd like to put that on the agenda for next month at this time.
Okay. Chair Davenport, are you still on the line?
Yes.
Is this similar to anything that has happened before with the project? That was we know that may take for years. How would you suggest we handle that?
I would take Michael's advice, and it's just Chuck is the proponent of the project, and it's up to him to let city staff know, as well as the commission, when it's appropriate to bring the commission, to inform the commission and seek the advice of the commission. And it may not be every, and I don't think for this type of a project, it would be every single meeting. So it's a matter of Chuck just keeping track of it and informing the city when it's appropriate to bring it up before the commission.
Okay, so if we would go look at this proposal, look it over, would it be appropriate if we had any questions or comments or anything to add to it that we could come to you, Michael? I know we can't have 2 or 3 outside of this forum to do that, but this way keeping Chuck's desires in the loop, but not technically on the panel, Is it okay just to talk to you and you're talking to him? Kind of the way we did with the Historical Preservation Day. We would send our information to you and you'd put it together.
Well, yeah, I put it together. I think it would be appropriate if commissioners individually have questions, you send them to me.
Yes.
And we could bring this back at a future meeting with the questions. You would have those in advance to be able to respond to those questions.
Okay.
And then it would be discussed at a future meeting at some point.
Okay. Sounds good to you, Chuck?
Something else to consider here, based on the proposal, it sounds like you're trying to get a BDR for the 25 session. If it's going to be added to the 7 existing state museums, there'd be no purview for this board or for this commission. It would be under the State Board of Museums and History and the Division of Museums and History.
Well, I'm going to talk to an assembly person about a potential BDR. I don't know if she'll want to do that or not. And even if she says yes, it can't be done overnight. We're going to be working on it the rest of the year and to see if it's feasible to put it in writing. And then we'll have to see if it's going to be brought up to the legislature. And even if it is brought up, they may turn it down. I'm not expecting everybody to jump on it overnight. So I think for us to, as I mentioned in my proposal, I say an option to the state doing this type of thing, an individual city could do it. In this case, Boulder City. I would like to see Boulder City, just for the record, I'd like to see Boulder City do it. But the main thing is, as I mentioned, I would like to see a museum, whether it's in Tonopah or Ely or wherever it may be. Obviously, certain cities would be more appropriate than others. But I think for us to put this aside and let's wait till next year and see if we even get a BDR and if it's even going to be brought up and get voted on, I think that if there is interest locally, we should at least begin to explore it a little bit and discuss it a little bit and see where it takes us. To say forget about it till next year, I think would be inappropriate.
I guess where I'm getting at, though, is this is really outside the purview of this commission. Is this really the appropriate venue for this?
Yeah, that's what my question was.
What I asked in my proposal and verbally is that if the commission feels it has a potential and historical value, then we recommend it to the city council. Yes, it's not in the purview of this commission to come up with money or put up a museum, but certainly if the Historic Preservation Commission feels it has potential or has merit, that carries a certain amount of weight to the city council. And then the city council can appropriate it to the various department or division that could explore it concerning finances and whatnot. But to just throw it away right now, I think would be inappropriate.
Okay, so I think that at this point in time, since we can't go any further on it, that's something that will relate to Michael. Michael will relate to you and so on. And if there's something substantial to come back to this commission and it fits this commission, then we'll go forward. Can everyone be in agreement with that, or?
Yes, would this be something that the city would say, absolutely, we're on board, let's go forward with it? Or would they say, no, this does not have any place in Boulder City, so then therefore we would have to stop planning and gathering information? Would that be something that you would need to talk to the city council for and about first? Or, I don't know, I'm just asking. Because if we do all this planning, they're like, nope, absolutely not, that's not something we have in mind, then I don't want to waste all of our time if there's another location for it.
If you can tell us right now what you think the city's going to say, I'd be anxious to hear that. But obviously, if the city said, no, we're not interested, we don't want it, that's fine. I'll go to one of 100 other cities in
Absolutely,
Nevada.
right.
Yeah, so that's fine. I would love to see it in Boulder City, but it doesn't have to be in Boulder City.
Okay, so I will move on, and we'll hopefully hear from you down the road, one way or the other.
Very good.
I kind of lost track. I think I already did item 8.
Yeah, we're looking
Does she-
for direction on agenda items. So are there any recommended agenda items for next month?
Right, and I think that was brought up again when I said that. So just to reiterate that, is there any other possible future agenda items for next month? Chair Davenport, do you have anything?
I do not. Just, I don't think we have to add it to the agenda. I think it's automatically, but if there's an update to the guidelines from Courtney, that would definitely be on the agenda.
Yeah, that's intended to come back. She indicated she would be able to make all the changes, so that will be on the agenda next month.
Okay, very good. All righty then. Well, if there's no other comments, I'm going to move into a final public comments period for the evening. The public may call 702-589-9629. Hearing that there's no one on the phone and no one in the audience, we will close the final comment period, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.